to how it all, when it all started. So, what were you doing before, and how did you make this transition? What was the steps for you? What was missing in your life that this happened?
Yeah. 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 Well, it's so interesting because when I do have a exact date that I can tell you I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening, and the veil was thin between physical and non-physical, and of course it felt spontaneous, like this is out of the blue. How did this happen? But when I really go backwards a little bit and say, okay, what was going on in my life? Like there was a pivotal point with my health where I had just had it with, medical interventions and procedures and being in so much physical pain and medication not touching it and doctors not understanding, that I just said, I'm I'm done with this. I'm off medication. I don't trust this system anymore. I just need to cleanse. And I did a water fast and I knew nothing about it. It was a little uncomfortable, but I was just really clear in that moment. And that was about 20 something years ago, you know. Where I was just like, that's it. And so gradually, I would say, which again, I can see that now. I didn't see it then. I started to connect with naturopathic physicians and, just a more holistic health approach until that actual, like, spontaneous spiritual awakening that
Isn't that
really
crazy?
was.
You can remember the date.
Oh, I can't because I mean, it was an absolute pivotal point, and it lasted for about 5 to 6 weeks where I just lived in bliss, and I was just filled with love and light, and didn't have this mental chatter, that was just intruding all the time. So it was quite an amazing window. And then the information that I intuited from that experience was just amazing. And it definitely, it freed me in a lot of ways, but it certainly wasn't so blissful after those 5 to 6 weeks, because then the real work came.
Right. Hello, and welcome back to the Passionate Pioneer podcast with myself, Beth Taylor. I am, of course, the Passionate Pioneer. And in this podcast series, we are discussing spiritual awakening experiences and the path to joyful living. And today I'm joined by Melissa Jean. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, Melissa. And for people that don't know about you, would you mind giving us a quick introduction before we dive into your story?
Yeah, yeah. So, I am a licensed independent clinical social worker by trade, like 19 working in the mental health field. But my journey with awakening really evolved into now being a spiral guide for sensitive, awakening women, where I offer quantum attunement sessions and heart wisdom hypnotherapy to really help them move from their head into their heart, right? To understand their stress and fatigue and just get into those deeper layers so that they can come into contact with their truth, their voice, and to live more authentically and aligned with themselves.
That's lovely. Yeah, I hear this word a lot these days, quantum. Of course,
Hmm.
we've known about quantum physics for a long time, but now we're
Hmm.
talking about it. We're bringing it into mainstream now, aren't we? Quantum.
Yeah,
And we're
yeah.
talking about different timelines and quantum leaping, etc. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really quite fascinating. And I'd love to dive into that a little deeper with you. But first of all, let's go back to how it all, when it all started. So, what were you doing before, and how did you make this transition? What was the steps for you? What was missing in your life that this happened?
Yeah. 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 Well, it's so interesting because when I do have a exact date that I can tell you I had a spontaneous spiritual awakening, and the veil was thin between physical and non-physical. And of course, it felt spontaneous, like this is out of the blue. How did this happen? But when I really go backwards a little bit and say, okay, what was going on in my life? Like there was a pivotal point with my health where I had just had it with, medical interventions and procedures and being in so much physical pain and medication not touching it and doctors not understanding that I just said, I'm I'm done with this. I'm off medication. I don't trust this system anymore. I just need to cleanse. And I did a water fast and I knew nothing about it. It was a little uncomfortable, but I was just really clear in that moment. And that was about 20 something years ago, where I was just like, that's it. And so gradually, I would say, which again, I can see that now. I didn't see it then. I started to connect with naturopathic physicians and, just a more holistic health approach until that actual, like, spontaneous spiritual awakening that
Isn't that
really
crazy?
was.
You can remember the date.
Oh, I can't because I mean, it was an absolute pivotal point, and it lasted for about 5 to 6 weeks where I just lived in bliss, and I was just filled with love and light, and didn't have this mental chatter, that was just intruding all the time. So it was quite an amazing window. And then the information that I intuited from that experience was just amazing. And it definitely, it freed me in a lot of ways, but it certainly wasn't so blissful after those 5 to 6 weeks, because then the real work came.
Right. That's what we don't realize, is we have
Yeah.
to do the inner work.
Yes.
As within, so without, right?
Yes.
It's the outside,
Yes.
the inside. And if we
Yes.
start living from within instead of
Mhm.
without, which is the outside world,
Mhm.
which is very
Right.
noisy and full of distractions and
Right.
gives us that mental chatter all the time.
Right.
Who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? Right?
Right. Right.
And so I'm sure that when you went through this body cleanse, your mind, you had a lot of chatter going on afterwards. What happened there? What was that all about?
Yeah, well, and some of it, I mean, when we talk about what with the physical, I mean, I had doctors who were like checking my thyroid because, I was given that diagnosis of hypothyroidism. And I don't think at the time I had the diagnosis of Hashimoto's, the autoimmune condition yet, but I just remember being met with your numbers are too high, like you need to be worried about your heart, like all of this fear getting thrown at me. And I was just calm and I was like, I will never take that medication again. I feel healthier. I feel myself again. Like medication just impacted me in a heavy way. And so I found other professionals who could assure me, like, okay, this is safe, as long as you keep doing, what you're doing and we monitor, because of course I want to be smart about it,
Yeah, but there are
but I want to work.
holistic ways. You went down, you found other
Exactly.
doctors that could give you the holistic method. Because these
Yeah.
days I find, okay, I'm not a huge fan, I'm not a fan of the pharmaceutical industries, that's for sure.
Hmm.
As I'm sure you're
Hmm.
not, many of us
Right.
aren't. But,
Right.
obviously we do need some type of doctor. And but I think that the mainstream doctors just keep throwing medicine at you, which
Right.
just maybe suppresses it
Hmm.
and it just
Right.
keeps it at bay. It doesn't deal with
Right.
what's really going on. And when you
Exactly.
start doing the inner work, things like
Right.
fasting and taking care of
Yep.
yourself, and you start
Yeah.
really going down that road, that's obviously the road that you've been down.
Oh, yes.
And you
And I
found,
feel like
sorry, go on.
I have my own inner physician. That's what that like
Right.
having, like you said, I would find the right doctor who could support me where I was, but still I would sense their fear. Well, but you need to keep coming for this. You need to keep coming for that. And I just kept saying, There's another way. I'm trusting. And the more I tuned inward, the more I trusted, like, okay, my body's communicating. It lets me know when is it a good time? Is it necessary for a test? Is it necessary for a visit? I no longer need to be part of this structured, fear-based um system.
I
And
think
so,
I think
not that
that's
I don't
part.
consult, but
Yeah, that's I
yeah.
think that's part of maybe the spiritual awakening when you hear about a dark night of the soul, and that's about
Oh,
stepping away from everybody that's fearful and being
yes.
fearful yourself, but
Mm-hmm.
understanding that all the answers lie within you, and
Yes.
you have to learn to trust yourself.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
takes time. That's a process because you don't just say,
Yes.
"Oh, I'm just going to
Yes.
trust myself," because we've been
Yes.
taught not to,
Right. Exactly.
right? We've
Exactly.
been
I
taught
feel like
not to.
yeah, that is our awakening journey is developing that trust that we have our own inner guidance, that we have, our own sacred geometry right inside. But in a sense, it's buried, right? Because a lot of us got schooled to not even look inward, right? Oh, study this, master that, blah, blah, blah. That's the path. And so it's like we need to keep uncovering what are those barriers that are not letting us trust. And then we live in that sense of trust.
But yeah, but it does take it does take time to learn to trust and follow your intuition and listen to your
Yes,
body because it will tell
yes,
you,
yes,
right?
yes,
Some people can eat
exactly.
meat. Some people don't want
Yeah,
to eat meat. Some people are allergic,
right,
but some people make a choice. They just don't want to.
right,
And
right.
I was vegetarian for a few years, 3 years, I think, 3 or 4 years. And then suddenly my body said, I think I want something. I think I'd
Yes,
like a steak. And I hadn't eaten red meat
yes,
for 4 years.
right,
But
right.
suddenly I
I did
just
that
felt,
too.
I think I
Yeah,
would like a steak. And I was like,
yeah,
really? You want a steak? And that's my
right.
body kept telling me, yes, you need a steak. And I'm
Yes,
like, okay.
yeah, yeah,
And and so I
exactly.
started to eat meat again slowly. I don't eat it all the time.
Yeah,
I don't eat, there's certain meats I don't eat.
yeah,
But
right.
you've got to listen to that little voice.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it takes us, being willing to pause. Not everyone can. I mean, I certainly called myself very high strung in those early years in my life because being a highly sensitive woman, I'm very attuned to everything that's going on, what everybody needs, and it was just busy, 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 busy. And so when we are so busy and overwhelmed, it's hard to even know what's coming from where, so it really takes that let's pause, let's connect with our
Pause.
breathing. Yeah, we need to get silent to listen to that inner voice. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's that busy
Mhm.
world, and
Yeah.
you've got to find time. I always say, where are you on your schedule? Let me
Mm-hmm.
see your
Mm-hmm.
schedule. Okay, you're doing this and this and this. You're going to help your
Right.
mom, your boyfriend, your
Exactly.
husband, the kids,
Yep.
the
Yep.
shopping, the work, the blah, blah, blah. Okay, so I'm sorry, where are you on the schedule? What do you mean? Where am
Right.
I?
Right.
Right?
Right. Exactly.
You've
Yeah.
literally got to carve out some time for
Yep.
you
Yes.
every day, even if it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Start
The
small.
women I work with, yeah, I encourage them. The moment you wake up, that's your time before you look at your phone, before you interact with anyone else, because that's when the veil is the thinnest, right? Between that what we call our sleep state, where again we're more connected and information's flowing, downloads are flowing. So to really carve it right when you wake up and before you go to sleep because those are the times that we can feel that connection and maintain it. Yeah.
So, what were you doing before this then? What were you doing before you said you weren't very well, and that's why
Right.
and you changed the doctors and you went on the holistic
Yeah.
path. And did you
Yeah.
change careers? Were you doing something different to now?
So there was a little shift in the middle. So, like I said, since 19, I've been working in the mental health field, working in psychiatric wards, getting all of my degrees, a therapist, guardian ad litem, advocating for children and those who need an advocate, right? In our court systems, here in the US. And then once I had that spontaneous spiritual awakening, my career changed because all of a sudden I saw that all of these structures and systems that I was working in totally were not seeing the core of who these people were and what they needed, and it was a lot of kids being prescribed medication, and I could no longer, I didn't fit in that, and I didn't feel heard anymore with this new perspective. It was like I was met with resistance, like nobody could hear that, but this kid needs something else. And it was almost like, well, this is the system. This is
This
all we
is this
got.
is the process. This is the system, right?
Yeah.
This is what we
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And I didn't live in that box anymore. So I definitely had shifted. Gradually just letting people know, like, my life has changed. This just doesn't align anymore. And then my husband at the time and I started like a new business, and I just said, okay, let's just start fresh. But it didn't take me long before I was like, but this is who I am. Like, I'm a social worker by trade, but I saw it more as, but I'm a soul worker, to my true nature. And so I'm going to stay on my path. And that's when I actually did a life coaching program where I delved into neuroscience and quantum physics, spiritual psychology, positive psychology. And I had already been studying science of mind philosophy from Ernest Holmes. So I was already back into my fascination with the mind and how we interact and live on this planet together. So,
It makes total sense that you move from the mental health industry, which is broken like many industries. It's not a
hmm
complete disaster, but it needs a
hmm
complete rehaul, doesn't it,
yeah,
really? We need to take
yeah,
it back to the bare bones and
yeah,
start
yeah,
again. And it's
yeah.
funny that you were in that system in the middle of
hmm
it. I've spoken to nurses, teachers,
yeah,
all industries, and they all had
yeah,
the same, that kind of,
yeah.
waking up and saying, is there another way is there a different way we can do this? Or I have some
Right.
ideas. Let's try this. No,
Yeah.
this is the way we do it. It's got to fit,
Right.
it's got to tick the
Right.
box. And if it doesn't tick the box, and they've all said, okay, then bye-bye, I'm out.
Right.
And that was
Right.
a big moment. So spiritual moments, spiritual awakening moments often come with career and life choice changes,
Mhm. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I remember having some fears actually arise once I was in that spiritual awakened place where I was like, am I gonna stay with my husband? Like, I truly was like, I didn't know what would happen, and I didn't know what my finances would be like. And yet, I was a mom, and I just thought, how cool would it be to welcome another child, like because again, our children are coming through our consciousness, our bodies. And I just thought, like, how cool would it be? And 3 years later, all three things happened.
Hi, I just wanted to pop on here just to say thank you so much for being here, watching this video, and supporting my channel. It is my honor to bring you these stories from these incredible women who are passionate about their lives and have alchemized their spiritual awakening journeys from service to self to service to others. If you would like to be part of my Passionista community, just grab a free copy of my workbook, which you'll find a link below. It's called Your Passionista Journey Starts Here. And start making those small changes to your life that you need right now. Thank you again for being here. Love you to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know when all the new weekly episodes are live. Thanks again, Passionista. Much love and joy. Now let's get back to the interview.
I did separate from my husband, although he's still my best friend. because I met him when I was 16 and he was
Right.
18. Um, and definitely we went through, as you're divorcing, right? Finances, like that's a huge, again, my whole life was adult life was with him. So
Everything
once you
crumbles in the
divorce,
background to build
yeah,
something new,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And again, I got pregnant with a what felt like a soul connection, and I have a now 12 and three quarter son. He's 12 and three
12
quarter
and
years.
three quarters.
He's
They like
almost
to
13.
remind you, don't they, of that? Three quarters.
Yeah,
Mom, I'm three
yeah,
quarters,
yeah,
12 and
yeah,
three quarters.
yeah, yeah.
That's quite
Yeah, so
sweet,
it was
isn't
like
it?
really amazing. Like within 3 years, all of those things that came within that initial, spontaneous spiritual awakening all happened.
Yeah, not
And so
surprised.
yeah, it definitely. But I knew like the moment I learned that my son was conceived, I was in total calm and peace and was like, this is a miracle. This is a miracle. This is a gift because I didn't ever think I would have more children because it was so traumatic, so high risk. I had 8 pregnancies and I have 3 born children. So it was
Right.
like quite a traumatic and trauma after both um deliveries. So he was really like, yeah, there's no doubt like he's meant to be here. I mean, we're all meant to be here, but I just mean like that precognition 3 years before.
And good for you for continuing because when you have losses all the time, you'd be more inclined maybe to give up. And you
Mm,
didn't. You continued to pursue. I believe the children that are coming in now, I mean, there's just so much more sensitive than we were.
yes.
They've got
Yeah.
like the coding in their DNA that's just, they
Yes.
say things. They're like
Yes.
mini adults at 5 years old, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
it's
Oh, definitely.
crazy. They
Yeah.
kind of seem worldly wise already,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and they're teaching
Rapid.
us.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Well, I
Whereas
mean,
when
I
I was a
certainly,
child, it was the opposite, Melissa. How was it for you?
right. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I definitely saw my children as my greatest spiritual awakeners, right? Even before my spiritual awakening, because of course they're mirroring back and it's like you're trying to understand what's them, what's old programming, but with my younger one, because the other ones were 13 and a half and 11 and a half when he came, there's so much where it's just he and I. And there's so much more clarity too around that spiritual connection, that spirit, that sensitivity,
Mhm.
that attunement, and the coherence that we develop is definitely
Yeah, that we,
so
that we
different.
just we never had. It took us years to develop it,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Yes,
nice.
yes.
But it's nice that you made those changes because then you can be that, you know, do you can be the role model for your children.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
what you can do. This is what's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
And
Yeah.
and I think that you they do need role models, even though they come in and they're already quite aware of what's happening in the world and they want to make changes. They
Hmm.
see things that we obviously didn't see
Right, right.
when we were young, and they also see things now that maybe we are in alignment now. The ones of us that are awake,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
understand them and we can talk to them.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, yeah, and I feel like John, my oldest is 26 and my next is 24. And even watching myself, how they have taught me how to be in a sense of that they trust themselves, that they understand I don't need to mother them in the way that we think, or some adults, some adult parents of adult children still do. I mean, you know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, I've really learned, and again, I got that when they were 7 and 9, that okay, you have everything you need within you. That sacred geometry has always been there. I don't have to send you to college. If that's not your path, that's not your path. Like that was my path. But and I've really come to honor every decision
Their
because it's
individuality.
theirs. Yeah. Yeah.
Right, their individuality and the fact that, there is a path and they do have freedom of choice,
Yeah. Yeah.
which maybe
And
we
and that
didn't have.
includes Yeah, and that includes whether they want me in their life. Like I really honor that, yes, they came through me and I call them my daughter, my son, and I always want them in my life. They're the brightest lights, and have brought me the greatest challenges. But it's still their choice. Like and in this stage of their adulthood, sometimes it's not reaching out to a mom. Sometimes it's having space and it's like, okay. That's yours. You
But
get to
I think
choose
that's
that.
because you've done the inner work, Melissa. I think it's because you've done the inner work and you've learned to trust yourself, trust the journey,
Yeah.
and trust that spiritual awakening that we are ever evolving. We're all walking back home to source
Yeah.
together,
Yes.
really.
Yes.
No one
Yes.
gets out alive, let's face it, right? As there's a funny expression that I love
Yes.
to say, right?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one gets
Yeah.
out alive. So
Yeah.
if we can have more love and kindness and understanding and compassion
Yeah.
and understand that
Yeah.
everybody's journey is different. Let's stop
Yeah.
judging and let's
Yes.
stop
Yes.
controlling and putting people into a box.
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's one of the biggest learnings with a spiritual awakening is hold on a minute. I've been in this box for 25 years.
Right.
How do I get out of the box? What do I
Exactly.
do next?
Yes.
And I'm very scared of all the changes because I've been told that
Yes.
change
Exactly.
is change is scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. I mean, I still live that because as walking this awakening path and ever evolving, I am encountering things routinely where it's like, really? This is happening. Okay. And then I need to sit more. I might need to meditate a little bit more, right? Because I mean, that's how the mind is working, right? It's used to the past. It's used to whatever the programs are. And of course, it feels more comfortable in the familiar. So change is, whoa, the unknown. What's going to happen?
Well, it is. Well, you just mentioned the dirty word programming, right? And you've got to uncondition yourself. And
Yeah.
that's what learning to trust yourself is. You've got
Yeah.
to, it's like resetting a computer and updating and taking off old
Yes.
programs and
Yes.
installing new ones.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the easiest
Absolutely.
way to explain it, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
No,
It might
no,
mean
it's
that you
not.
lose friends and family on the way.
Yeah, yeah,
But you're bringing new people that are
right.
aligned with you and aligned with your journey.
Exactly. And that's where the trust comes into. But it's also, I do hear that often from the women that I'm working with is like, but my friendships or this relationship and of course I've lived through that too. So I understand it can feel lonely and they can sometimes think like, am I doing something? And it's like, no, the path is being cleared for you because you're being true to you and they don't resonate at the same frequency right now. Does it mean forever? No, because my path showed me, although we divorced, we came back together and not in a romantic way, but like came back together and continued to grow. And again, he's my best friend. So, just because our paths may separate from some people doesn't mean that they won't come again. It just depends on right? Each person.
Absolutely, absolutely, it is clearing the way. I like that, clearing the way. Yes. So,
Yeah.
just because you're going to lose some friends, you know, we worry about that, don't we? Because again, it's the familiar. Oh, well, I've
Yeah.
had these people in my life. Yes, but maybe they're not they were good
Mm.
at the time. There's nothing wrong
Right.
with them.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with
Exactly.
these people. It was just they were
Right.
good and they took you to here.
Yes.
And now from
Exactly.
here, you might take some of them with you, but you're also going to need some other people.
Yes.
And we're just
Yep.
clearing the path for you
Yeah.
to more,
Exactly.
more, more space
Right.
to be
Right.
filled with something new.
Well, and it's an opportunity for growth too, because
Right.
sometimes having maybe somebody that's there for you, and I saw that in again my relationship with my former husband, where it's like, well, if I'm in this pattern of, oh, I'm feeling emotion and oh, I have these thoughts, and I'm routinely reaching out to the same person, right? Like they have what they can offer, and so it's almost like it keeps you in a pattern where you want to keep growing. You want to keep evolving out of your own old patterns and allow that person to as well. So I see it more as like it's a gift
Well,
for both
isn't
of you.
that funny that maybe together as friends, you will both grow? Maybe where you
Mhm.
wouldn't have grown in the marriage.
Exactly. Oh, right. Because we were very, very much in those patterns that had been, I mean, 16 and 18 years old, right? Like
Right.
we just were together. And so, yeah. So, yeah.
So let's talk about that trust and the
Hmm.
intuition, the inner Google, as I like to call it, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure you know
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
Um, what let me think. Let me word the question right. So, um, tell me how you started to trust your intuition. You mentioned listening to your body. Is that how it started? Tell me more about the trust journey that you went through.
Yeah. Well, so my makeup is someone who, again, have a very curious mind. And so part of, my challenging moments throughout life would be spinning the wheels. What is this telling me? Why is this happening? What is this about me? Because again, once we start understanding the outer world is reflecting our inner world, right? Like it's like, okay, well, what is this showing me? And so that continuous inner inquiry, would then be the same with, well, why is this happening? Why do I have this pain? Why do I keep going back to that doctor? So it was more about raising awareness to all of these patterns that I was in, the ones that were helpful and the ones that maybe not so helpful, right?
Yeah.
And it became an unwinding, and then yes, the relationship with the body was a very pivotal part because I mean, this is where we're experiencing all of life, right? So um we need to have a clear communication with it. So it was definitely tuning inward more, being curious, asking more questions, connecting more. Any pain I would feel, I would put my hand there and be like, I feel you, I hear you, I honor you. And so it just kept deepening my own trust and curiosity around anything and everything that was happening in my world.
So basically, I would say it's like living outside of the matrix. That's how
Hmm.
I would say.
Totally.
A little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
We're not off grid, right? We're not
Yeah.
off the grid. We're not living in the forest, but we're definitely living outside of the constraints and the
Yes. Yeah.
fear and
Yes.
the boxes that they try and put you in. You must do this and this and this.
Right.
That's not,
Right.
how's that been working for you? Not well. That's a surprise. So
Right.
it's
Right.
understanding like freedom of choice. Oh, I can find a holistic doctor. I don't need to go to
Right.
the regular doctor. So how has your
Right.
understanding of this freedom evolved in your journey and understanding that you do have choices?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as I was saying, the raising of awareness, I mean, and this is what I tell all women that I work with. I mean, we can't change anything if we're not aware of it. And so my own inner inquiry of body relationships, what's happening, really deepened my awareness of again, what was happening and why. And then when you become more aware of what's happening, you see synchronicities like, oh wow, I met that professional. I wasn't trying to go meet that professional, right? And oh wow, they started helping my son in this area. I didn't even know my son needed help in that area, but okay, great. And so again, you become more aware of the synchronicities and the orchestration of things that you are not necessarily seeking. And so that really was a profound piece to trusting, because that's not just trusting myself, that's trusting my relationship with the outer world, with the universe, with the field, right? So that became a relationship as well. So it's not only the relationship I have with my mind and my body and my soul, it's a relationship I have with the field that is orchestrating the things that I'm encountering and
Yeah, the
trusting that.
journey, isn't it? The journey, and the connection to source or the universe or
Yeah, yeah,
God, the creator, whatever you
yeah,
want to call it.
right.
But it is that, isn't it? And trusting not only in yourself, but trusting in something that you cannot see,
Exactly.
the
Yep.
unseen, that field of
Yeah.
energy, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That's interesting. And it's also interesting that you mentioned synchronicities because nothing is a coincidence.
Exactly, exactly. And but see, that's a shift in perspective. And that's something that again, when I'm working with someone, I'm helping to gradually take those blinders off that we all have lived with, right? To
Mhm.
just keep opening and expanding, because what we give our attention to is what grows. And so if we've been repeatedly giving our attention to this very narrow, framework, then we're missing out because it's all there. It's just a matter of expanding our awareness and perception of what's possible and what's really happening. So whether we call it random or synchronistic, right? Like that's a different experience.
Yeah, correct.
Hmm.
Correct. I wouldn't say anything is random.
Right.
It
Nope.
all has a purpose, right?
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
that is a different perspective, and you do have to do the inner work to get there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you've talked about a little bit about your life and your relationships. What other, you've also talked about the trust and the intuition. What other spiritual modalities and practices or insights have become important to you in this transformation that you maybe still use now?
Oh, well, definitely. And they are ever evolving. And I would say, it is a spiral of where, I become aware of this and then it comes back around and it's just like, oh yes, now I see it even better. But definitely, I mean, meditation. I mean, number one, though, breath is the bridge. So we need to know that connecting with our breath, deepening our breathing, moving out of our head to our heart, that's essential. So that's an everyday, all day, not all day, but you know what I mean? Like where I pause and reconnect with my breath and my body. So besides that type of meditation, I have rituals that are again acknowledging Gaia, her support of us, her love of us, and connecting with nature, the sun, understanding that the sun is that quantum biology explanation of why a lot of us feel so much more alive when we're outside in nature, the trees, the sun, right? So definitely that connection is, I feel like a kid again, understanding that it's not about being in these closed walls in a physical house, building, office either. We need to be in nature. That's where we get silent and can listen more closely to so much more. So
Well, I totally understand that because I live in the middle of nature. I live up a mountain in Italy, so
nice.
that's where
Nice.
that's where I put myself. I mean, people say, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're so lucky," and I say, "No, it's not luck. I designed.
Right.
It was, it was, it was designed by me. My life was designed
Yeah.
by me,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have nature on my doorstep, and it's really amazing how, even if you don't listen to the audience that's listening, even if you don't you think spirituality or awakening, or you're not sure what's going on, you're confused, everything's in a spiral. Take a walk in the park, take a walk in nature, and see how you feel after
Hmm.
5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Just notice the difference because we have a symbiotic relationship with nature that has long been suppressed and we
Yes.
need it.
Yes.
No more
Yes.
concrete jungles. We need to
Right.
be in nature as often as possible to replenish and recharge our soul. Would you agree, Melissa?
Absolutely. I mean, the first thing I do after I do my morning ritual inside is to go outside barefoot, hands,
Mm.
feet on the earth, thanking Gaia, the sun, absolutely. Touching a tree, like we're all connected.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. And the trees, I mean, it's amazing what they're finding out about the trees and how they talk
Yes.
to each other and the the
Yes.
network they have in the ground.
That's, yeah.
And the tree huggers of the 60s had it right.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They
Mm-hmm.
had it right. We laughed at them, but they were absolutely right.
Yep. Yep.
Go and hug a tree. I don't care how stupid you look. Go and hug a tree. It's going to make you
Yeah.
feel so
Yeah.
much better.
Right. And it's so true that people feel that way because that is a practice I started probably 10 years ago. And actually, even just holding my hands outside the tree, not even touching it, just to feel that aliveness in the tree, that electricity, that energy. So yeah, it's fun.
It's crazy. So what does
Mhm.
what does joy look like for you now? Because I'm all about the joy and following the joy. So these
Yeah.
practices, do they help you follow the joy?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because my initial morning rituals are all about tuning in to my heart and soul and visions and what lights me up. And then I step right outside, feet on the earth and greeting the sun and just basking in the glory and appreciating my life. So I definitely feel totally supported and held and love to laugh with my son and learn and play. We swim in the river, ride our bikes, a
But
lot
isn't
of
it
fun.
amazing just that just that little routine that you have?
Yeah, oh yeah,
What a difference that makes in the whole of your day.
absolutely. Absolutely. And when if my day is not too scheduled, then I'm absolutely going to go out there midday, making sure again that I'm outside as much as I can, and not confined to the walls of a building. Yeah.
Well, that's because you stepped out of
Mm-hmm.
service to self and so you went into service to others, which means you became an entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
and you're now dedicated to being service to others.
Yes.
Um, so you can make your own schedule, you can design your
Yeah.
day so that you
Mm-hmm.
can have those joy moments and the things that are important to you,
Yeah.
right? Can you just touch a little bit on how you help other women rediscover their own gifts and
Yeah.
align with their mission or their purpose or their
Yeah.
soul contract, however you call it?
Yeah. Yeah. The beauty of the women who come to work with me are in so many different places. Some will come because, again, the mind is so busy and again, high strung, like I described myself. And others come because their body, again, their relationship hasn't, been working. And then others who are aware of that spiritual side, but don't feel free enough to talk about that with others because it just
Oh.
feels like it's off there. So I have the honor of meeting them wherever they are. And more often than not, these women are, on the science side of things, highly sensitive, a sensory processing sensitivity trait. And I help them understand what that means, which helps them reframe their past and helps them understand their current experience. And then we gradually, go into how to erase, right? What no longer serves them, release it, let it go. I use hypnosis, my own process there. I share about the wisdom of their body and just really help
Hmm.
them come back into trusting themselves. Like, what do you feel? What's coming up for you? So, again, opening that space for them to connect with their own inner guidance and wisdom because it's all there.
Hmm. I love that. Yeah. And they do, with these women come from all walks of life and they're just looking for guidance. And as you said, yeah, they feel like they can't talk about their experience. They can't talk about what they're going through and how they
Right.
feel. And it's so important that you find your people,
Mm-hmm.
Find them, find a group, find online, find a community, find, if you can't talk about it with your own friends and family,
Right.
that's going to be part of the process that you're going to need to find a new group. And if that's online because you feel uncomfortable talking
Mm-hmm.
about it, you can do it online and you can join a group. You can join anonymously.
Mm-hmm.
There's many ways to do it, isn't there, Melissa?
Oh,
So
absolutely.
find a coach, find a mentor, find
Mm-hmm.
somebody that you can talk to honestly and openly.
Right. And that's really where the magic is when you can find someone that you can really let down all those guards and be vulnerable and then to be received, because that's what I often will hear. Like you're saying exactly what I needed to hear. Like it's like this permission slip to just
Right.
be yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're on your own path, and support is here, whether it's in the physical with another person or in the universe as far as, sitting in that silence and starting to connect in their own way. But definitely, we often feel alone, and that's part of our initiation into understanding that we are so not alone,
No, that's part
Yeah.
of the process, isn't it? Understanding that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think about joyful living and authentically living? Um,
hmm
how do you feel that it's contributing to the collective on the planet?
Well, definitely when we think of, levels of consciousness, right? Like David Hawkins' map of consciousness, those are those higher levels that they influence the planet. Like there's way more people living in the lower frequencies of like that map of consciousness, that again stays more in the boxes that we've talked about. And so as we are elevating our own understanding, awareness, and levels of consciousness, it all ripples out. It's all contagious in a sense, whether we're in those lower frequencies and living in those lower frequencies or we're rising up. We're always influencing each other. And the magical thing is that we're not only rippling out into our future in the sense of even like our children, right? And those younger generations, but we're also affecting it going backwards. So as we focus, yeah, on our own joy and our own liveliness, that vibrant, radiant self, we're absolutely impacting everyone because it's all frequency, it's all vibration, it's all rippling out. So
Fantastic. I agree. It affects everything because time is linear on this planet, but actually
right.
we're affecting the future now, the future, and the past.
Yeah.
And the more you can raise your vibration, the more and living joyfully and authentically. That
Right.
means basically
Yeah.
for those
Exactly.
listening, it
Yeah.
it just means that we're helping other people because
Yes.
they'll see you're a role model.
Exactly.
And they'll see and they'll say, oh, look, oh, I like what she's doing. Or I like what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And more, I'm noticing there's more and more people talking about spirituality and,
Mhm.
and how we're coming out of those boxes and
Absolutely.
it's okay. Whereas years ago, it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay to come out of the box and it wasn't okay to talk about it.
Yeah, right, right. Well, the age of Aquarius, right? Like
Lovely.
it's time for it all to align and for us to really wake up and remember. And that's what I am really recognizing in my own journey is I'm remembering ancient wisdom. I'm moving into that type of, yeah, joyful living, authentic living, and being true to oneself and one's path. And nobody else knows what that is but each of us. So no one knows better for anybody else. And we came from a period where, oh, we know what you need to learn. Here's your curriculum, do it this way. No, don't go play. Like you've got 5 hours of homework to do today. It's like, but what?
I know.
Yeah.
I do feel like that, and that's a whole other podcast about the teaching industry because that's That's a whole kettle of fish there. It's a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Lovely. Listen, Melissa, I've got two questions to ask you that I ask all my guests to finish this episode. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
It would be stop and breathe. You don't need to try so hard. Mm.
And what do you hope your story will inspire in other women who are looking to live a more purposeful and joyful life?
To tune inward because you have everything you need right inside of you.
But tuning in takes a little longer than a day.
But we can do it multiple times a day. But the
Yes,
more we do
correct.
it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trust the
Mm-hmm.
journey, right?
Yes, exactly. And keep coming back inward. Keep tuning in. Like, oh, what was that about? You know, be curious. Yeah.
Great, great, great answers. A million thanks to Melissa for joining me today, and thanks to our audience for hanging out with us. We hope you found it inspiring and empowering, and you'll find all you need to know about both of us in the details below. Until next time, this is the Passionate Pioneer and Melissa Jean signing off. Bye.
Thank you.
Wow, another powerful Passionista conversation. I hope that this guest's journey, experience, and story has inspired something deep within you. Remember, it's about following the joy moments in your life. It's a beautiful dance with the universe. If you would like to dive deeper into your joy journey with me, you will find all the links below this video, including a link to a free workbook that will help you to start your joy journey. And until next time, Passionista, I'll say goodbye. Much love and joy.